everyone. This is Samantha Brennan-Lisco from NC Pro, and in a short time, we're going to have Laura Jimenez doing a presentation on the reporting requirements per NC Pro. Thank you.
So Lisa, you cannot see the presentation yet?
So we're live. Thank you, Laura. Go ahead.
Is everyone able to see the presentation?
You could go ahead, Laura.
Okay. Welcome everyone to this information session on the coronavirus relief funds for non-public schools. And this presentation once again is being recorded. I'm Laura Jimenez. I am an internal auditor for NC Pro. I have been assisting with the contracts and audits for our office, and I work for Lisa Aolo, and she's here with us. She is our internal audit director. And I also have joining me, like you already met, Samantha Brennan-Lisco. She's also an internal auditor for our office. In the agenda, as it says, we are going to be looking at the overview of the laws, the guidance on use of funds, the allocation, and then the reporting requirements. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, known as the CARES Act, it passed on March 27 of this year. Your subsection of the law that has allocated $250,000 to non-public schools, it's in the most recent Session Law 2020-97, and this was signed on September 4th by our governor. House Bill 1105, which is from this Session Law 2020-97, provides the funds for schools serving Opportunity Scholarship students so that these schools can purchase personal protective equipment. And here is the Session Law. And again, as you can see, you have all probably by now have received your agreement number or your contract agreement number. And as you can see, it starts with the number 87. And that's because the law that was given or allocated to your entities is under subsection 87. So that's how we normally get your agreement numbers based on the subsection law that was assigned to your entity. As you can see here, the prime office is the Board of Governors of the University of North Carolina, and they have passed on the allocation to the State Education Assistance Authority, and most likely we just call them NCCA. And they or NCCA will be then passing on the money onto the non-public schools. And I believe the allocations to your schools have already been sent and or is going to be done between today and or next Friday. But I will have another slide for maybe Catherine or Betsy to just speak a little bit more about that in a few minutes. The U.S. Treasury guidance has three components for an allowable expense. And as you can see here, it must be necessary expenditures, and they must have been incurred to the public health emergency. So necessary expense incurred to the public health emergency. It cannot be included in your most recent enacted budgeted as of March 27. Adjustments or amendments to the enacted budget should not be considered. So in other words, if you had already planned on spending, I'm just gonna take a guess. And again, I know in your case, it may be a little bit different because you are gonna be spending your funds for PPEs, but I'm just gonna give you an example. So let's say the agency had already included the funds or budgeted for, let's say, 5 computers to be purchased back in January. And so they had already thought about that. It had already been in their budgeting. And so if as of March 27, if they had already been allocated those 5 computers to be purchased back in January, they cannot utilize our funds, the CRF funds, to purchase those 5 computers because that was already put in their budget from before then. And the payments that were incurred, they must be between March 1st through December 30th. So that is the time frame. And here, if I could have maybe Catherine Marker or Betsy, maybe speak a little bit about the how the funds were allocated.
I can start. This is Catherine. The funds were allocated per the Opportunity Scholarship enrollment. So there was the overall amount of $250,000 that was allocated to the schools based on their enrollment of Opportunity students as of September 15th. So schools, that's why you received the short survey to confirm, because we needed to know how many Opportunity students were enrolled as of September 15th. But thank you all very much. You replied quickly and we were able to create the allocation. In terms of the funding, I'll briefly mention that, and if there's other details from our finance division, Betsy can chime in. But you are set up for ACH because of your regular disbursements that you receive from our agency for the tuition and fees, and so you'll have those funds deposited via that same process between this Friday and next Friday. So probably early next week, you'll see the deposit of the amount of money that'll be for the PPE.
And Catherine, hi, this is Betsy. The funds were sent out. They actually should start hitting your accounts today. If we did not have an ACH account or a bank account for you, we mailed those checks, and those checks were put in the mail today. So again, you should receive them at some point next week.
So you'll know the amount because it's $21.22 per student, and so we base that on the enrollment you reported. So if you have any questions, you can email us about that, but you'll see the amount divided by 21.22, and you'll know that not that you need to portion out the way you spend the funds. I don't mean to imply that, but that was how the allocation was arrived at.
Thank you both. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I had the impression when I started receiving some emails from some folks that the funds were coming from our agency, NC Pro, directly, but I just, yeah, with this, it's been confirmed that the funds are going, yes, it's going from our agency, but it's going from NCC down to the non-public schools. But definitely, let me go ahead and move on. Okay, so then here, this was the definition for personal protective equipment, or PPEs, that we agreed upon. And as you can see, the funds may be used to purchase personal protective equipment in alignment with Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and other applicable federal guidelines, including gloves, face masks, protective eyewear, face shields, protective barriers, and protective clothing such as reusable or disposable gowns, jacket, lab coats. And at the bottom we have some references, and definitely this PowerPoint presentation will be available to everybody, and you can definitely check out the links as you please. Okay, so now we are getting into some of you already know or recognize at least the attachment C1s and C2s. I've already received a few emails asking questions about how to complete the attachments, and that the form itself, they did not have enough explanations. And so that's what we are doing this presentation to assist everyone in understanding how to complete the following forms. Now, it is my understanding that, as you already know, all of your entities have, or let me say the non-public schools, you have already been given an agreement number, like I explained earlier. and all of them start with 87-00. Now, because again, you are most likely a subrecipient of NCCIA, you have been given a number after 87-00, and most likely they started with 01, 02, 03, and so on. There are over 360 schools, and so everyone was given a agreement number in particular to or allocated to your school. You must follow those agreement provisions as well. And when it comes to attachment C1s and C2s, I have on this presentation, I'm showing you the actual form, so you can have a look if you already have not taken a look at the forms yet. But most likely you are going to give us your narrative of the outcome and accomplishments related to the funds spent for the specific purpose as stated in the grant contract. So as you already know, this is for PPEs, and we already shared with you the definition and how you can spend the form, the allocations. Okay. For some of you, and probably maybe for all of them, most likely if you have already spent money, and maybe I'll need my supervisor's input here, but we normally collect these reports monthly. But I understand some of your schools or the non-public schools have perhaps gotten enough money, but again, because the allocation goes per the students that you have enrolled in the scholarship program, you probably only have gotten maybe less than $100. But each month we collect these forms, the attachment C1s and C2s. And I will explain a little bit further what is attachment F. But for C1 and the C2, they are used to describe how your entity spend the CRF funds. And for the C1s, we will expect to see a performance metrics. So which performance metrics you're going to be using? The performance metrics is going to help us how you basically achieve your recovery goals. And I will have or show you a performance metric sample that you could use because the allocations that you will be spending the funds on PPEs, this is considered infection control. So I will show you in a few minutes an example of what I mean by performance metrics and how you should provide us that information on your C1. In addition to your C1s and C2s, we will need invoices. You have to provide invoices. In this case, any information to support your expenditures. And so most likely you'll have your attachment C1, C2s, and if you're going to be giving us invoices to back up your information, you can certainly provide us a PDF document with all of your invoices listed there on a PDF. In the same way that you would upload your C1s and C2s, you will also upload your invoice. Miss Lisa, if I forget something, please feel free to jump in.
I know, pretty good. I just wanted to make a comment that I know that some of the schools received, small amounts. So you would probably only have to submit one report to us if you used up your funds, and it would all be by October the 20th. If you spent the funds on PPE, you would give us that invoice for the PPE. You would tell us the child, not the name of the child, but you would have a count of 1 or 2 or 3 children or whatever that you were able to supply PPE to. And that's what she's talking about when it says the performance metric. Instead of it being frontline workers, it would be the number of opportunity students served or given PPE, and then you would be done. You wouldn't have to continue to keep sending monthly reports once you've used up your money and you supplied us with attachments C1, C2, and F. And F is a final accomplishment document that says, pretty much the same thing that you're going to say in the attachment C1. if you're sending it all together.
Yes, and I can go ahead and then let me go ahead and move on to that slide, and then I'll go back. So this is the dates that Lisa just explained. So then the following or the next report, we normally accept the reports on it due on the 20th of each month. But again, some of you may just have to submit to us one report, and that would be for October the 20th. And so the October 20th, as you can see on here right below October supporting documentation, it will include any expenses that you've already had from back to March 1st all the way through September 30th. And if maybe for some of you, you may not, let's say you have a little bit of over a couple of $1,000 and you still have not purchased any PPEs, and so you may not think that you have had or will incur any expenses for up to October the 20th or from March 1st through September 30th, then you will probably you have to still let us know. You have to still submit your C1, letting us know that no expenses were incurred between March 1st through September 30th. That's if you have not yet spent, or if you don't have any expenditures as of today from back to March 1st through September 30th, then on your C1, when you send that to us on October the 20th, you may just say that you still have not had incurred any expenses between that time frame. So you will still have to submit that to us, even though you may not have had any expenditures. But for your November report, that would be the expenses incurred between October 1st through October 31st. And as you can see, we are collecting the previous month, and you're giving it to us a month later. So the expenses for this month, you are going to be giving that to us on November the 20th. I believe we already explained about the PDF, and your supporting documentations could go into one PDF, again, as your invoices. Yes, the purchases of goods, services, and so on, your receipts. So let me go back to a few slides back. Okay. You have already been given these two links. One is for your download, and the other one is to upload the documents back to us. Once again, you must have your agreement number in front of your document in order for it to go into your correct folder. We have over 2,000 subrecipients, and we would really, hate for your documents to be lost or like an orphan child, like we call it. Please use your 87-00-01-02, whatever agreement you were given. Please utilize that at the front of your document. Please do not put an underscore. You have to put a dash in between 87. 87-00 is what you would have to put at the front, along with your other subrecipient number that you were given, whether it is 87-00-200. So you just make sure that that agreement number is at the beginning of your document when you upload it. And then this is we just want to put for those that have not yet looked at the C1s, this is how it looks. So you have your organization name is going to be on that first line. The second line of the first box or chart is going to have your agreement number. And then the date. And the date that we mean is, so if you're providing us the October 20th report, then you'll have that date there, October 20th of 2020. Your total fundings authorized, then that would be whatever funds you receive from NCCIA. That would be the amount on that total funding authorized. Then if you receive all of it, then you will put that on your second column for total fundings received to date. And then if you have already spent all of it, then your balance most likely will be 0. But if you did not spend all of it, then just give us whatever balance you got left from your total fundings authorized. And then at the bottom, that's where you will give us a descriptive summary of how the funds were used. The next slide, this one is your attachment C2. The attachment C2 most likely is a backup of your C1. So here you're gonna give us your numbers. So your monthly reimbursements requests by recipients and subrecipients, so by cost of category. In your case, it's going to be PPEs, and you have one of these columns is going to be for PPEs, and that's the last one at the bottom. It says good expenses, supplies, PPEs. That most likely is going to be where you're going to be giving us your the amount that you spend on PPEs. We already mentioned the this slide right here. And then Lisa, I don't know if any of them will have to be registered on SAM.gov because of the amount that they're getting.
Well, we just tell anyway, just in case, so that they can know.
So if, and most likely this is going to be for NCC as well, any entity or any contractor that have been given, I would say 50,000 or more, they have to be registered on SAM.gov. And most likely this is going to require a DUNS number. So at the end of the day, we will need that entity's, the legal name, the address with the 9-digit zip code, their DUNS number, phone number, and email address.
So in your case, I would say, let's say you all decide to use the same PPE vendor, and even though you may have only received, $21 or $100 in aggregate, let's say the school decides, oh, we're going to use this one vendor, and when you add up cumulative, that one PPE vendor received over $50,000. Make sure that they are aware that they have to register for SAM.gov.
Yes. And now we are most likely going to be passing it on to any questions, if we have any questions on the chat.
Hey, Laura, Lisa, Catherine, and Betsy, we have quite a few questions, so I'm going to read them out. Actually, Catherine has already been going through some of them. So here's one. If we spent money on PPE and desk barriers this summer, can we use those receipts to show this? We did not budget for these items.
Yes, so if you're asking, can you use these receipts to reimburse yourself for what you already spent? If that was for Opportunity Scholarship students, then yes, you can reimburse yourself, because again, you are still going to be restricted by whatever the state law states.
We have another question here. Is this a one-time disbursement or monthly?
This is a one-time disbursement. The funds that were given out to you all was $250,000 according to the session law, and an allocation was made to make sure that all of the funds were equally distributed by the number of Opportunity Scholarship students that you all have. And so once you receive that amount, that is it.
And we have a question here. I can take this one. Is this being recorded? Yes, this is being recorded, and you will be able to get the recording, as well as you will have the slides provided for you. Next question. Where can I find these attachments? I have not received an email with these attachments. I believe that she is referring to the C1, C2, and the F.
Right.
Yes.
So the download links that we provided to you will allow all of you all to download your attachments. When you download your attachments, you will notice that the attachment just says 87-00. Please add your unique number to it so that when it's uploaded, we know it's coming from your school.
We have another question here. Do we need to submit anything to show participation in this session? I believe that would be best answered by Catherine and Betsy.
Hi, this is Catherine. We are not tracking attendance at the session. We're just hoping to help everyone with the requirements. So I'm glad that you're all here. It's going to make it a lot better, a lot smoother, but you don't need to worry about being your attendance being tracked.
Here's another question for Betsy or Catherine. We have just had 3 students enroll who are NCCS scholarship recipients. Is there any way to include them?
So by statute, it was the enrollment as of September 15th. So that is a fixed date. And if a student you counted on the 15th withdrew on the 20th, that doesn't change anything. And if you had students add in, that doesn't change anything. So the statute was really clear that it was students enrolled in your school receiving opportunity funds as of September 15th.
We have another question. Can the PPE be used for teachers serving the students instead of the students?
You have to follow whatever the session law says. So we actually have the session law up, and this was, I'll read it just to be clear. And I'm going to skip over all of the legal stuff, but it basically says $250,000 will be given to be allocated to non-public schools that enroll students who receive scholarship funds pursuant to the Opportunity Scholarship Grant Program, established in accordance with Part 2A of Article 39, Chapter 11C, for the purpose of personal protective equipment for use in the schools. It doesn't say that the students are the only ones that can use it. It's just saying for the purchase of personal protective equipment for the use of school. So I think what they did was they just utilized for eligibility criteria that you had to participate in the Opportunity Scholarship Program, and then they determined your amount that you were going to receive by the number of students, but I'm sure the teachers can use it.
Mm-hmm. And that answers the next question, so I'll go on to the one after that. Can these funds be used to pay a company that comes in to clean the school with a spray?
So if you would go to the definition of personal protective equipment. So here is the definition we provided for personal protective equipment, and it says funds may be used to purchase personal protective equipment in alignment with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and that includes gloves, face masks, protective eyewear, face shields, protective barriers, and protective clothing. Like reusable disposable gowns, jacket, lab coats. So I don't think, okay, and it says the funds may also be used, to purchase hand sanitizer, cleaning wipes, soap, and additional materials used to clean and disinfect, and to upgrade HVAC systems with specialized filters and or technology to prevent airflow that would spread to COVID-19. So what was the question one more time so I can make sure I'm clear on the answer?
Hold on, I have to go back to it. It says, can the funds be used to pay a company that comes in and cleans the school with a spray?
Okay, so I don't see where the funds could be used for that in particular. I know it could pay for the spray itself, and it does say you could use it to pay to upgrade HVAC systems, which I know that would mean you would have to pay a company, but I don't see where it could be paying for a school to spray a company to spray. I'm sorry.
And Lisa, I know we've had Andy from our program team sometimes answer some of those questions as well. I don't know if we may want to bring it up to him and see what he thinks, but I mean, I'm with you, but it's up to you if we want to bring it, further.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll ask them, and then we could send out some kind of communication to you all of what that answer would be.
Okay, the next question. If we purchase a PPE before we knew we were awarded the money and we have the documentation receipt, may we use that to offset the money we have already spent when we spent it in August and September?
Yes.
Yes.
These funds go back all the way to March 1st. And again, if you are enrolled in an Opportunity Scholarship school, yes, you can use these monies to reimburse yourself.
This will be a question for either Betsy or Catherine. Will we be notified of the deposit through My Portal on the NCCA website?
The answer to that's no. So these funds didn't go through My Portal, so you won't see them in there. So you know when you get that, and you know to expect it soon, today or Monday or Tuesday, you should see it. And again, it was $21.22 per student that you reported as of your September 15th enrollment for Opportunity students. So if you have any trouble figuring out what the funds were for, let us know, because we know, of course, how much was sent to each school, and we could, that would be something our team, NPS at ncsca.edu, could help you with if you got the deposit and you're not sure.
Next question. So if we spend all of the funds received at one time during the month of October, do we still need to submit a report for each month afterwards, November, December, January?
No, you do not. What you would do is for October, we would expect to see an attachment C1 that includes your performance metric, the number of students that you were able, or teachers that you were able to give PPE to. Then we would expect to see your attachment C2, which would list your invoice information, and then you would also upload the actual invoice. All of that using your 87- whatever number we gave you. And then we would expect to see your attachment F. Your attachment F will, in this case, almost exactly restate what you said in attachment C1. And that's because you're submitting everything one time, and it's probably all the same information. Attachment F is like the closeout. For other people who have more than 1 month, it's a closeout that's cumulative. But your attachment C1 and attachment F will probably state almost the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm. And let me add something to the attachment F. I should probably have added it on this presentation, and I can do that before I send it over to Betsy and Catherine. So most likely your attachment F, as Lisa stated, is a descriptive narrative of everything you were able to accomplish with the CRF funds. So just be, descriptive about it. And I mean, this probably definitely will not be for you, but we've had some other entities that have even added pictures. But again, it depends on how their funds were supposed to be used. And so some pictures for us, they will explain to us and we can visualize it, how they spend the money. In your case, you definitely don't have to submit any pictures, just with a descriptive narrative of how the funds were spent. What did you accomplish with the CRF funds? That's most likely what you need to do for us. Okay.
The next question will be for Betsy and Catherine. Can this money be declined without a penalty?
Yes. At this point, you will have to issue a refund because it's already gone to you. So email NPS for instructions, an address, and you would write a check then to refund the exact amount that you received.
Someone is also inquiring, where do they get their numbers from? Was that Catherine and Betsy that submitted them, or was that NC Pro?
So someone I know asked about that. We emailed a few days ago. Actually, I think it was the end of last week. We emailed that agreement number out to you. NC Pro supplied it to the K-12 programs, and then we sent it to you via email, just trying to give you information from a familiar address about what was happening in the training. And so if you did not get that email, and so you don't know what your agreement number is, email NPS and we can provide your agreement number to you if we'll get you started. We had sent an email that explained the funds, the reporting. It had the download link and the upload link, and then an attachment with the agreement numbers by school.
Let's see, the question on PPE we've already answered. Will the info be archived? Yes, this is being recorded and you will be able to have access to the recording as well as the slides. Do we still need to report every month even if we do not purchase more PPE during the year? If you have used all of your funds and filled out, as Lisa had pointed out, the C1, the C2s, and the attachment Fs, then no, you do not need to report anymore. If you have not finished using the funds, then yes, you will need to continue submitting until those funds have been used. There's another question.
Hold on a second, I have a comment. Also, all funds that are not used by December 30th must be returned back to NC Pro. So it would be helpful if you would try to spend these funds actually by November the 20th, because we will be reaching back out to all of the entities trying to see who will not be able to spend their funds by December 30th. So we will have time to decide how to shift the funds to other entities who may still need more.
And Lisa, can you also explain to them if they have ordered PPEs but they have not yet received the order? How would that work?
Yes, so everyone, the U.S. Treasury is definitely understands that there has been a supply chain issue since the onset of the pandemic. So they've allowed up to 90 days after December 30th for shipments to come in, and then they fully expect for the transaction to close out. So that means if you ordered something, let's say December 20th, and you know, when you're talking to the vendor, they say, hey, that shipment won't come in until February, you could still use these monies to pay for that shipment when it comes in. But now if you ordered something January the 1st, no, these funds cannot and will not pay for anything ordered after December 30th.
Another person asked, could you go over the Form C2 again, please?
No problem. Laura, and if you go back to it, I can go over it in detail for them.
Yes.
So for attachment C2, this is basically a monthly expenditure report. What we're asking you to do is to list your invoice, which will have your PPE purchases, okay? So you would have in the first column the name of the vendor who you purchased the PPE from, the date that you purchased that PPE, the amount that was on the invoice. So let's say you ordered a box of, 50 PPEs or something like that, and it cost you $20, and you would put down $20 under the amount and in the quantity. So once you fill that out, that's pretty much all you need to do, and that's in section B. In section A, if you purchased PPE, gowns, and all of that stuff, when you go up into the box that would say, since we're in October now, October, you would put the total amount of all of your invoices added up in summary. That would go up in section A, where Laura's pointing to. And then you would also fill out your school name under the name of the recipient, your agreement number, the total amount that was given to you. So don't worry about it saying total funding authorized. You need to put there the amount that was given to you. So if it was $21, then put $21. And then how much you spent would go under October's column. And at the bottom is the detail of how it was spent. So it would have that invoice reference, and all of that documentation would go into those bottom fields. And then you would scan in your invoice and send that up to us, and that would complete attachment C2.
And Lisa, with that, there was another question that had asked a second part. It seems like there may be already some people that may have already had expenses on October 1st, or early the week of October. Can they include those expenses from October 1st through, let's say, the 9th or the 10th on the October 20th report, or
Yes.
would you rather?
No.
Okay.
So on the October 20th report, we would expect to see any expenditures that you incurred or you're trying to be reimbursed for from March 1st all the way up to October 20th. You could put it all on this same Excel spreadsheet. So if you are able to completely, let's say they gave you $1,000 and you have enough invoices from March 1st until October to cover and show us how you're reimbursing yourself, list all of those invoices in section B and have the total represented in section A under October, and we're good.
I guess because, earlier we had said for the October 20th report, it was going to be from March 1st through September 30th. But if they have already spent some on October, do you want them then to include it with with everything, or?
If it's going to zero out the transaction, yes. If they already know what it is and they're not going to submit, I don't want somebody to submit 2 reports. The first report that they're going to have to submit is October the 20th. And if they already know and they're going to finish out and it's just going to be a one-time thing for them, then go ahead and just put it all on that first submission and we're good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have another question concerning what the funds can be spent on PPE wise. Would teacher desk barriers be covered or just those for students?
So again, this is about personal protective equipment as defined in that definition. If there's something that deviates from that definition, I would ask that you send that to us directly so we could give those items to our program team to do a little further analysis to see if they would agree if that expenditure would be allowable.
Okay, next question concerns HVAC system. And again, as Lisa was saying, this is probably a question that will be best for the program team. So we will be sending that to them.
But go ahead and ask the question so we can see if we can answer it.
It says you can use this to help with HVAC system, filters, etc. Can we do this even though this would benefit all students at our school, not just Opportunity Scholarship students?
Yes, you can do that. Absolutely. The Opportunity Scholarship portion of the law was just to make the eligibility criteria of what schools would receive these funds. And then they actually looked at how many students you had in order to determine the amount that you receive. But of course, the HVAC system helps all, so definitely you can do that.
I'm sorry, I was incorrect there. We have another question here. If we do not use these funds, do we have to return them? Yes, you do. If so, when and how would we do that? Catherine?
So if you want to return them and not continue, or if you end up having to return them because you didn't have expenses, then you would write a check, and we have refund information, the address where you would mail the check, for example. So you could email nps@ncsea.edu and say, I need to refund the PPE money, and we have a address and a quick explanation just to email back to you.
Okay, we have 2 questions that has to work around how the amounts were determined. Would that be possible for you to go over, Catherine? They're asking who determined the pro rata amount, and then also, can we adjust the number of students on our opportunity list?
So by statute, it was to be allocated pro rata for the number of enrolled Opportunity Scholarship students as of September 15th. So that's what we asked for from you. Again, we double checked some of this in various ways, but essentially it's your enrollment as of September the 15th. And so if you kind of needed to see that again, because we did give direction on how to count them, who to count and who not to count. And so that went out to you with the link to the Smartsheet survey. So you replied and said you had 50 or 100 or 10 students. We added them all up and divided by $250,000, which meant that it was $21.22 per student. And no, you can't change the amount now.
if we use the money to upgrade HVAC, do we put the expense under equipment on the C2?
Yes, you would, and then you would also still submit the invoice from that vendor with the submission.
Can the electrostatic sprayer be purchased using this money?
Static sprayer.
I'm not familiar with the function of the electrostatic sprayer, but again, if this is something that is outside of the PPE definition, then submit it to us and we'll send it to our program team.
Okay, this question was just answered. We had already answered on the fund for the deep cleaning contractor. For the contractor, no, but the spray, if you were using the spray yourself or deep cleaning yourself, I believe that would be covered. Is that correct, Lisa?
So if, could you go ahead and let us hear what the question is, and then we'll go ahead.
It just says, can you use the fund for a deep cleaning contractor?
Again, I remember Andy from the program team answering this question for a different entity. And definitely I can just check back with him, and then we may be able to send additional information on this.
Yep.
Would the purchase of handheld thermometers be acceptable as PPE?
Again, this is one that's off the actual definition, so this is something that we're going to forward to our program team.
The school-specific identifier you are referring, is that our NCOPP number or a number specific to this disbursement?
So that's the agreement number. It's the 87-00- other number. So it's specific to this particular task. And it came via email. So that's the place where you would have found it. There was an attachment to the email that came from us, that came from nps@ncsea.edu. It was about this training today, and attached to that was a list of all the schools in alphabetical order with the number next to it. So if that's what you don't have, we can sure send it again.
There was a question that lady asked, I do not understand Part B on the C2. It doesn't seem pertinent.
Okay. So I'll explain the attachments. You talking about on attachment C2?
Correct.
Part B is the detail. It actually lists out the transaction from the invoice so that we can have it in a spreadsheet form. And it's pertinent because that's the only way our systems are going to be able to consume your data and know how much you spent and allow us to do reporting off of the information you provide. Even though you provide us with the invoice, which is probably a PDF, and it has the same information on there, it's not in a consumable format for our system to quantify and roll up the information.
Someone asked, do you have a list of vendors?
As far as for PPE, we do not have a list of vendors, but we do have certain nonprofits that have already contracted, and the hospitals that are already contracted with various PPE vendors, and maybe we can provide you with their contact information to help you decide who's a good vendor and who's not.
One person asked, virtual learning first semester, can we hold spending until we go to in-person learning?
So all spending has to occur, and all purchases have to be made before December 30th. So of course, if you've already made purchases, we're reimbursing you for the cost that you've already spent. Once we give you that reimbursed money, you could do whatever you need to do with your reimbursed money but all documentation that we receive must have a date that occurred between March 1st or through December 30th.
Okay, I have a couple questions here about the performance metric, and they would like to know, could you give an example of that, and would you be able to share that with these slides?
Yes, so Laura, could you please turn to the performance metric slide? So this showing right now on the screen is pretty much all you would need to submit since you're purchasing PPE with these funds. Basically, a performance metric is, trying to explain to all of the readers of all of our reports how you tracked your success with recovering from this pandemic. And since the General Assembly specifically said that you could only use this money for PPE, we believe that purchasing PPE improves the quality of infection control measures. So your goal is to provide your first line of support, that would be your teachers and your students, with protection related to infection control in a timely manner. And you're fine to reword that goal to any way you want, but basically what we would want you to do is give us a count of how many students or how many teachers you were able to provide PPE as a result of this money. We don't want a percentage, we want to count, because when we roll up everybody's results of their performance metrics, we will be able to say with the $250,000, we were able to help this many students and this many teachers in our non-public schools with improving the quality of infection control during this coronavirus pandemic.
The U.S. Treasury funds, do they come with any entanglement to meet other federal requirements?
So these funds basically have the following attachments. If you receive over $500,000, you would have to do a single audit report. So I don't believe any one of you have received that. If you received over $50,000, you would have to register for sam.gov and explain, basically why you received the funds. If you receive under $50,000, all we have to do is report an aggregate the goals that we were trying to do. So in your case, we would say $250,000 were given out to schools to purchase PPE. And that's pretty much the limit of what you would have to do. You will only have to report to NC Pro, and that's on the attachment C1, C2, and attachment F. And that.
Will we receive a receipt of the amount deposited in our school account from this program?
So this is Catherine. We do not have a way to send you a receipt. So if you aren't sure what the amount will be, you can contact us. But I would say again that you reported your recipients. If you reported 50, you multiply that by 2122, that's what your deposit will be. So you know what you reported to us, so you could determine exactly what that amount is, and it will come between today and a few days from now, no later than next Friday. So I hope that will help you identify the funds in your account, because we don't have a way to send another document per each amount. But if you aren't sure, contact NPS and we will try to research for you.
Must a report be submitted if PPE purchases are not made in October?
Yes. So if you received your funds and you have not utilized your funding, you would say in your first report on October 20th that no expenditures were made from March 1st to October the 20th. And then by November the 20th, we would expect some expenditures to be made, because if not, we're going to begin to ask, do you need the funds so that we can redistribute or prepare to, look for the checks to be coming back so we can redistribute funds to other entities.
One lady has commented that she has gone through her emails. She has not received any of the attachments. So I don't know if we want to maybe send the attachments along with when the slides go out as well.
What attachments?
Probably the C1, the C2, the F.
They're not given as an attachment. So again, these are, you were given a download link and an upload link, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if you access your download link, you will be able to get all of the attachments that we are talking about today. Please do not look for any of this in your email. We use a secure system, and when you upload, you'll be sending it back to us using an upload link and not our emails.
So again, this is Catherine. When we talk about an email that we sent from NPS at ncsca.edu, we sent this link in the text of the email so that you'd have it.
We have time for one more question. Can we use it for gloves for students who are playing bells?
If it's personal protective equipment, I'm sure, but if it was in your most recent budget, as of March 27th, that you were going to purchase gloves for the students to play bells, then I would say no. You can only purchase this for the gloves to sanitize, disinfect the school. And so, Sam, I just want to make sure, did we get to all of the questions? I don't know how many was left, but if we only had a few, I would like to answer as much as I could.
The majority of the questions are repeat questions about cleaning, hiring someone, paying janitors to do that.
Do you know how many? Because I don't mind answering. I don't want anybody. Everybody is free to drop off, but I would like to answer as much as I possibly can since they're here.
It says, can monies be used to pay janitors for additional overtime cleaning?
Okay. So again, this is for PPE, and anything that's outside of that, email us and we will send it to our program team. The next question.
Have the funds already gone to the bank? That's been answered. The upload for the C1s, that was just answered. Oh, are Amazon and Sam's approved vendors?
Yes, we don't restrict you on where you buy your PPE. We just need those invoices or receipts to be submitted.
They're just, all that's left are questions that have already been asked and answered. It's just a duplicate question.
I got you. So if you could read it out so that person can hear it, and then we can say what the answer was, we can keep moving.
Okay, we just have a few left. Can we get a copy of this meeting? Yes, this is being recorded, and you will also be provided the slides. Must a report be submitted in October 20th if PPE is not made in October?
Yep, keep going.
Do we have to send in a report if we don't use any that month?
Yes, keep going.
One lady commented she would be happy to take any returned funds.
Okay.
One person commented that they misunderstood the spreadsheet, and since your explanation, they now understand it. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Again, must we report if no PPE is purchased in October?
Yes.
Oh, so most of the columns won't be used, just vendor, invoice number, items purchased.
Right, but please do not adjust the columns. We need it to be exactly as we sent it because we have to upload it into our system. So if you don't use a column, leave it blank, but leave it there.
May the funds be used to pay an individual that comes to the school each day and cleans.
Again, we will forward that over to our program team, but my first initial thought is it's probably not going to be allowable because it's for PPE purchases.
Here, this is the last question. I had trouble getting on. Could you answer how we will get the funds? Are they in the bank?
So the funds were deposited by ACH as your normal funds are for tuition and fees. There were a handful of schools that for various reasons are receiving a paper check. And if you normally received a paper check in your recent disbursement, then a paper check it will be for this as well. But that was just a very few, 5 or 6 schools are getting a check. The deposits went to the bank today, so you should see them within the next week, within the next few days, most likely.
Okay, 2 more questions just came in. Are these state or federal funds? These are federal funds. And the next question.
So let me answer that one. It's federal funds and state funds. They come from the feds, they go through the state, so they have both federal and state requirements.
We had ionizers installed on our entire HVAC system, which will benefit all students and staff. Would that expense qualify?
Actually, yes. If you upgraded your HVAC and set it with PPE, you can reimburse yourself. But one of the things it said was to upgrade HVAC systems with specialized filters and or technology. So if the ionizers are considered specialized filters and or technology, then yes.
And also, Lisa, adding on to the then performance metrics for the numbers of those people, staff, students that benefited from it, then if all of them did, then you would put that amount there.
Exactly. And or they could say how many filters or something they purchased to do that. So whatever way they write it, it's still going to come up under the same thing of improving infection control measures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, someone just put up for reference, not a question. Not all contacts for NCCA receive the emails. It seems only school directors receive these emails, which may be why some are saying they did not receive the information.
So that would be whatever emails are in my portal. We sent them to all the emails we have on file. So some schools have just 1 and some schools have 2 or 3. So if we have your email in my portal, that's where it went. But again, email nps@ncsca.edu and we'll resend if you need that list of agreement numbers and so forth.
And that's it. That's the last one.
So this is Betsy. Laura, I'd like to ask one additional question. The recording, how will people be able to access it? I know we had some discussion about how that will happen, but how's the best way for people to be able to listen to this presentation again?
So I'm going to answer that. What we're going to do is ask them to place this on our NC Pro website, and this will be placed, we'll probably have it under the education, and if not, we'll create another button, but it'll probably be under the education button. It'll say schools are higher learning or something like that.
Lisa, if you send that to us, we'll send an email to all the schools with that direct link so they don't have to search for it.
We'll do that.
Make
it easy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Laura, we'll give you the final words.
Well, pretty much, I believe we've answered all of the questions. But again, if any other questions comes up, do not hesitate to email us. Please be patient with us. We have a lot of emails coming in, and so if you don't hear from us right away, feel free to email ncprod@osbm.nc.gov. Most likely, we have a lot of more staff checking on to that email address as well. And most likely, they will either get that to us if they don't know the answer, but the people or staff checking ncpro@osbm.nc.gov email are from the program and policy team. Thank you very much for being on this presentation with us today. And again, we are here to assist, and it is our pleasure to have conduct this training webinar for you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.